We've played the 4 minutes. I make it. Kevin Clancy stares at his watch and blows the full-time whistle. The Rangers have spilled 2 points and will not be top of the table tonight. But in many ways, Hearts have also spilled 2 points. After Machino gave them the lead on the rebound, he's getting a pat on the stomach there from his manager Craig Levein down below us after he was brought off in the second half. The mistake from Tavernier, it broke to Mulroney. His shot was saved by Alan McGregor and it bounced back to the Japanese, who knocked it into the empty net to give Hearts the lead. That coming after Rick Biezu left Alan McGregor's crossbar shaking with a header from a Sean Clare cross. It was a game that was few in opportunities, plenty to talk about. First half was better quality and Rangers equalised, and I mentioned Hearts will feel they've spilled 2 points from a winning position because Aaron Hickey gave away an unnecessary corner. He lost Morelos from the resultant set play and the Colombian smashed it home for his 15th goal of the season, as he and many others on the pitch grew increasingly frustrated the longer the game went on. At 1-1, there weren't too many saves a note for either goalkeeper really to make. Chances were at a premium in that second half, and what it all means that after one match day at the summit of the Scottish Premiership, and they're at all, in their eyes, an all too brief period at the top last season, this season's was brief as well, because after Celtic's hammering of Ross County yesterday, it is Neil Lennon's men who are at the top of the table at the end of match day 9's weekend of Premiership action, because it finished here at Tynecastle Park in a sunny Edinburgh. Heart of Midlothian 1, Rangers 1.
This is a hard place to come. I said it before the game. I thought it was really tough for Hearts because of the home form this season, because of the general form they've been in. But Rangers, I don't think they asked enough questions of them. But I have to call, how good were Hearts fans today? I mean, for a team that are going so poorly in the league, to turn out, is it 14,000 or something home support today? It's probably the time where it's another notch onto that home record without a win. But I don't think they'll care today, because I think it was a real dogged performance and a real good point.
Yeah, but unless it provides a springboard to then go and perhaps and win their next home game, it just becomes another part of the statistic. Though I mean, the fact that it's a good performance against Rangers will be lost as we trot out this stat for as long as it continues to be a live one.
Yeah, I know that, but I think Craig will try and look at it the positive side. Did they do enough to win the game today? Well, you look at the one off the bar and maybe one afterwards where Ikpeazu had a bit of a free header, but probably not. But I think he'll be pleased with the point in comparison when you look at the game at Ross County and stuff where they got a point. I mean, that was so. Craig will hope that this is a springboard, that you've come against a side who have been blitzing teams. I mean, they've not just been winning, they've been blitzing them, and you've blunted them. So he will use that inside the dressing room to say, look, it's just reinforcing what I think of you. You're not being shown that application levels, and I think that was what he got today, was application levels were high, quality was pretty average. But you're hoping that if the application levels are good against the teams who are not doing so well in the division, that you get more space, you get more opportunity, and then the output of the talented players comes to the fore and you start winning games. That's what he'll be hoping. But who would have thought that the first or the three sorry,
Neil Key, Neil.
Just getting battered here behind me. Sorry.
Who's somebody attacked him from behind? Well, he's talking.
Yeah. There was no studs involved though, so we're all right. Okay. But no, I think what I'm saying is that who would have thought at the start of the season that the three sides who occupy the bottom three positions would be in those positions? It's very, very surprising. Very surprising.
And we'll look back in yesterday's action in the final 40 minutes or so that we've got. But yeah, it's St Johnstone, Hibernian, Hearts, the bottom three sides in the Premiership right now, which would be great news for Hamilton and St Mirren. But it's an eye-opener. And, well, part of the consequence, Billy, from Hearts' point of view, of course, the fact that they can't win at home, and I've only won once away from home, albeit that was at Edinburgh, in Edinburgh, at the Derby at Easter Road. Just I noticed there was a little article on the BBC website, bbc.co.uk/sportscotland, which I read earlier on. It says, why does Ikpeazu shine in Hearts' biggest games? And it points out that his goals in the main, they've come in Edinburgh derbies, they've come in a Scottish Cup semi-final, they've come in high-profile games against top 6 sides in the Premiership. He didn't score today, but he does seem to be the sort of player who somehow seems to be able to cope better with these big matches rather than perhaps the run-of-the-mill league encounters.
Yeah, he knows it's a big stage, doesn't he? And he gets himself fired up for it. Not that he doesn't for other games, but
but he doesn't. He doesn't get fired up for other games, it would appear, because he doesn't score in them.
Yeah, I know, not just with scoring, but I'm just talking about how he approaches the game. He did it at St Mirren. He just roughed people up when he's not scoring. But for certain games, you're right, the stage is there, and he seems to get himself so focused that he wants to be the match winner. And although he didn't score today and Hearts didn't win the game, you can see why he does well in these big games, because he just wants to play against top quality opposition. Probably think, I'm going to ragdoll you as well on top of that, and show technique as well at times and directness, and that's what he did, Richard. He had a good game, and Hearts have to continue that.
Yeah, he wasn't booked, despite the protestations of the Rangers fans. To be fair, he didn't get our Rangers players.
I don't think he should have been, Richard.
No, honestly, I said at half-time, not one of those challenges was a yellow card, and one of them wasn't even a foul. He didn't really get involved quite as much physically in the second half.
No, but the size of the man, he's going to knock people over, and every time he does, then they get the shout, oh, it's a yellow card, but he doesn't. Touching on why he plays so well against the big sides, he has to ask the question to himself, like, why am I showing up against the big sides, but I'm not showing up against the lesser teams? That's application, without a doubt. And this is what Craig Levein lost the plot, not the plot, but he lost his temper with the other week, because he's frustrated, because it shouldn't just take you to playing against the big sides or a derby, because that's you doing a disservice to your club and your teammates. You should do the same application levels that you do in every single match. And listen, you're going to have off days, but that's not good enough to just think, right, the TV cameras are there, it's the old firm, and I could get myself in the shop window and show how good I am. That's rubbish.
Yeah, it's also a bit of an indictment on a player if he can't have the same application for all matches, isn't it?
It angers you as a manager and as a coach and as a teammate that you're thinking, this guy is a real threat for us. I mean, he's a real occupying force up top. We need to see that every game, because the 3 points against the lesser sides are just as important than getting a point against one of the biggest. In fact, they're more important, because it's 3 points rather than one. So he needs to show that type of aggression and application in all the games, and then maybe the players round about need to add into that as well, and include a lot of other players within that. So that's what Craig Levein is getting annoyed about, and every other manager who's sitting down at the bottom of the table, because you think you do your work all week and then your team go out and they don't apply themselves in the manner that you know that they can, because you've seen it all week in training. It's so frustrating.
Okay, well, the door to the Hearts dressing room certainly has opened. Craig Levein has walked through it, and he's now with Brian McLaughlin.
Yeah, Craig, a scrappy 1-1 draw. Would you accept that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough fixture for us today. We've not been in the best of form, and Rangers are flying high at the top end of the table. So, first and foremost today we had to play with a lot of energy and try and stop them from playing before we managed to do anything ourselves. So, all credit to the players. The only frustration for me was we lost a goal from a set piece, which is something that always irritates me. So that was annoying. But other than that, I couldn't fault their efforts at all.
Started the game extremely well, extremely quickly as well. Was that the plan?
Well, we started against Aberdeen in a similar manner here, and it's something that we haven't been doing in other matches. So it's just reinforcing the importance of, at Tynecastle in particular, getting our supporters behind us. And we can only do that by playing positively, playing forward, bringing excitement to the game. And I felt we did that in the early part of the game. I thought once Rio scored that we got a bit safe. We did defend a little bit deeper, which wasn't the intention, but that sometimes happens when you get in front of them in a game, particularly if you're not overly full of confidence. So
that can happen in football, can't it? When you've not had the best of times, you go a goal up. You wonder about it, don't you?
Yeah, players get safe and they don't make the runs forward that they might have done previously. So, but we didn't let Rangers get any rhythm today, which for me was a pleasing thing. And all through the team, I'm really pleased with with the players. I thought in particular Uche had his best performance of the season, and Michael Smith, who seems to can play anywhere, I thought he was excellent alongside Christoph at centre back. So yeah, a lot of good performances. I'd love to have won the game, but obviously we haven't. But it does move us forward, that's for sure.
You spoke about Uche there, and yeah, another outstanding afternoon. It's against a big club again. Do you now ask him to do this on a more consistent basis against the Motherwells, against the Kilmarnocks?
I mean, I can't really level that at him. I mean, he's had injury problems, and we haven't really had him at his best, so that's been the problem more than anything else. And he's a player who needs to feel 100% fit to do the work that he does. I mean, he's relentless, and he hasn't been fit, so that's been the biggest problem. I think he himself feels he's getting there, and I saw that today with a lot of his excellent forward play. So yeah, it's good that he's in good form.
And on Aaron Hickey, I know he gave away the corner for the goal and then possibly let Morelos loose at the back, but he responded really well in the second half, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent in the second half, and he got a bit of stick at half time, which he hasn't really had in all the matches that he's been involved in. So I thought he stood up and was counted in the second half. He moved over to the other side, and as I say, you had no idea whether he's a right back or a left back with the level of performance he's got. So all credit to him again. He's a young boy making his way in the game, and like you said, he didn't have the best of first halves, but he made up for it in the second.
Thanks, Craig, man.
Okay, cheers, Paul.
Craig Levein, I mean, I think as you boys said, Neil, there are clearly elements there that he was very happy with this afternoon. There is certainly that sense of frustration, and the biggest frustration of all, and you just knew it would be, they conceded a goal from a dead ball situation.
Yeah, I thought that would bother him. Interesting that he got the wrapper out for Aaron Hickey, which would probably be the first time. Well, he suggested that was the first time he's had a little go at him, so it shows you the strength, and Dodgy touched on that, the strength of character of the kid, that not only has he had a rocket from his manager for dropping somebody so important at a set piece, that he just had to switch positions. And I thought his performance at left back, I didn't think his performance at right back was all that bad either. I know he drops Morelos for the goal, but I didn't think he was all that bad. I think he was lacking in a bit of help from his right sided midfielder, but when he went out to left, I think that kid is one of the best around now. I mean, his composure, I watched him coming off closer to see his reaction to getting a result against Rangers. He's shaking his head. I love that. I love that's not anything to be celebrated. He's probably shaking his head because he's kicking himself for dropping Morelos. So it's still, although they've got a result, I think that was right back into the forefront of his mind there, and that's why he's shaking his head. And I really, really like that, because it shows that there's a bit of a winning mentality in the kid.
I've seen many fold. I've seen many folds when that happens, especially at that age. You can just think, get me off here. This is not my stage. I'm not handling it. But he didn't. Hearts helped him, Richard, because they took him off Morelos at corner kick second half. And then, but he still has to recover mentally and say, right, okay, I'm going to take part in the game, just keep it going as normal, how I've been playing, comfortable on the ball, aggressive in the tackle, and that's exactly what he did. I thought the top man today was Michael Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Who said that. I mean,
he's
reading the game. He's so slight for a centre. Well, if he plays centre half, and he's not tall, but he's
reading in the game superb.
Never lets it bother him. Yeah, that's the biggest attribute for him. He's intelligent in where he's positioning himself, and that's exactly what he did all game. Didn't get flustered when he got the ball. He just used it nice and easy, and didn't just boot it clear at the first moment. I thought he was outstanding, Rich.
Yeah, I think we're hoping to hear from Michael Smith, so hopefully we'll get to him pretty soon. Craig Levein now has to hope, of course, that Hearts can build on this, that they can get something of a run going, because despite the fact that it was a good performance and there were clear pluses, they still remain in the lower echelons of the Premiership. They're still without a home win since the end of March. It is just one league win out of 9 this season, so a number of issues there that clearly he's going to have to deal with. And he also stood up for Uche Ikpeazu there, saying that he's not been fully fit. It's not just the big games he turns up in. And I guess maybe what we need to see, maybe what Craig needs to see from him, is a run of matches now where he can get on the park, he can stay on the park, and he can contribute.
Yeah, without doubt. I think that's not just him that he would like that to happen to. There's a lot of important players, but I can't tell you, the last time when I was playing football, I felt 100%. I mean, as a professional footballer, you're generally carrying something And the worry is that if the big boy Uche needs to feel 100%, then maybe they wouldn't see him as often they would like to. But because you have to just rub stuff off, I think he gets a lift though, Richard. I think there's no secret in that. He gets a lift playing against the big teams. He knows he's going to get looked at because he can throw people about, and he's throwing big proper centre backs around, and they don't like it. And I think he gains energy from that. I think he likes when the fans got behind him. I think he likes when he hears centre backs doing a little bit of moaning, because he thinks, okay, this is me now. And even some of the audacious things that he tries, I mean, they're not pretty on the eye. But it shows you that step over.
He tries the kind of step over and the drag back. I mean, it's like the Titanic turning, isn't it?
Yeah, that step over in the derby still haunts me. I mean, honestly.
That was in slow motion. That was in slow motion, wasn't it?
Oh, it was terrible. He was like one of these big prancing horses, and I mean, he still claimed an assist after the game for Hickey, which was quite incredible.
Today it was a step over with a bulldozer.
Oh, he just throws. But I tell you, see when he's on form, Richard, and that's what I said. If you're not actually thinking, right, I'm going to use Uche as an out-and-out number 9 type goal scorer, and you're using him for a purpose which is just battering people around and creating space and drawing attention to create gaps for other people, for runners, then he's absolutely brilliant at it, especially when he's got a little bit of confidence.
Absolutely. He played his part today, didn't he? So too did Michael Smith, man of the match for the boys. He's now live with Brian.
Yeah, Michael, were you happy with the point today?
Yes and no. I thought we started really well. We rattled them a bit, and we got the goal that we deserved, and they get back in the game. You know, silly mistake from set play, but I don't think they caused us a lot of problems today. So it's an all right point. I thought we should have 3.
How important was it to get at least a point, given the way that things have been going in recent weeks?
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. I think more confidence in the mentality, and the fight today was more important. Yeah, we showed what we're about, and it's about competing every week like that, against the so-called smaller teams. We got to do it week in, week out.
Is there a problem playing against the smaller teams? And when I say that, and actually the players actually raising their game against them?
They should. We should go out and steamroll teams. Like we done today. I thought first 15 minutes we were brilliant. So we should do that week in, week out. And there's a mentality problem if we can't do that. Yeah.
So what can this point today do for Hearts in the next coming week? Because you've got some big games, Livingston next week, and then St Johnstone midweek before, of course, the semi-final of the League Cup. Yeah,
Livingston away is a tough game. We found that out last year, so we'll go there looking to get a bit of revenge.
Yeah, you're looking at it from last season, yeah? You remember that game?
Yeah, we still have nightmares about that, but no, we'll be ready for next week.
On a personal level, you play right back, you play centre half, you've been playing midfield, maybe right side of midfield as well. Where do you prefer playing, or is it just a matter of getting on the pitch?
I don't mind, as long as we try and win the game, and as long as I'm playing, I'm happy enough. Today, centre half with Christoph, he makes it easier for me. He goes and wins the headers, and I just sweep up behind him. But no, I don't mind playing anywhere really.
And confidence up again in the dressing room after that, do you think?
Yeah, it should be. It'll be building, and we'll work hard this week and try and get another one on Saturday.
Thanks, Michael. Well done.
Cheers.
Thank you.
So it's been a high-scoring start to the season, the most enjoyable right across Scottish football. One man who loves to see the goals flying in is John Robertson, the Caley Thistle manager, there this afternoon, and he's with Brian.
Yeah, we're just chewing the fat about the game today. John, what did you make of that today?
I thought it was a very, very spirited performance for Hearts. Listening to Craig in the build-up there, he wanted a fast start, he got it. Thought they got in about Rangers, unlucky not to be ahead before they did. Wonderful goal. And they took the game to them. I thought they defended very well. Rangers looked jaded, they looked flat, they didn't have any real zip about them. It's a mistake for the goal, both goals, to be fair. Both managers will be upset, and I felt it was a wee bit harsh on Hearts to go in the interval all square.
As a manager, and speaking from a Hearts perspective here, would that frustrate you, that performance today? Because given performances in recent weeks, there've been nothing like that.
Yeah, listen, there's been a lot of players out injured, but if you look at the spine of Hearts team today, the goalkeeper was solid. Didn't have a lot to do, in fairness, but he was solid. I thought Michael Smith and Christoph Berra were excellent. Christoph's had a lot of stick recently, but I thought he stood up to the task today, and Michael Smith was excellent. I thought first half in particular, Glenn Whelan was magnificent. He controlled the game in there with the young lad Bozanic, and then up front Uche was Uche. Rangers played into his hands. You get close to him, he gives you problems all day long. So the spine of the team was good, and then you had Mulroney putting a shift in, Clare putting a shift in, and the two fullbacks doing their job. So it frustrates you because Craig can see the potential. He knows the potential of these players. He's got lots of players injured. It's been well documented, and I'm sure if he gets them all back and gets them playing in the system that he wants them to play, that the talent is there. But the hand he's got at the moment, you have to get the best out you can. And the first thing should be a given, and that given should be the old perspiration rather than inspiration. And they got that today. They got that in spades. I thought they outworked Rangers. Rangers, as I said, they looked jaded, they looked flat. Their three midfield players looked all very similar. They never really looked like they were going to score. Neither team did second half, if I'm being honest. But you're right, Craig will be delighted with the performance and delighted with the attitude and delighted with the energy that his team put into it. But he'll be frustrated because he knows there's more there. And I think that's where Hearts fans have got to look. He'll have sat down with budgets that season and they'll have had targets. The first target would be at least the League Cup semi-final, and they've reached that. The next target obviously will be, I would imagine, top 4, and he's still got 30 games or 29 games to reach that target with all these players coming back fit, and then obviously and hopefully another good Scottish Cup run for them. So it's a tough situation for them. Their performances at home have not been great. Today was more like them. It's a green shoots of recovery, and more performances like that, getting the big players back in, can only augur well for Hearts in the future.
They have a busy schedule coming up, of course, before Christmas, but still sit at the moment third bottom of the table. There has to be improvement in that, surely, before Christmas.
Yeah, Craig will be the first to admit you have to get results. If you're a manager of a football club and you're not getting results, then you're under pressure. And Craig knows that. He's not daft. But Hearts fans have got to understand as well, he doesn't want to lose games. He wants to win games, he wants to do well. But he needs a shift from his team, and he needs what he got today. And that's what he should be demanding, and I'm sure he does for every game, that they give them at least that amount of energy, at least that amount of commitment. And as I say, once you get that, the players like Naismith and Walker, Haring back in the park, Suter and Halkett, all back into the team, then that will give you that wee bit of quality, a bit more steel, but also the quality to unlock defences in the other way. The squad's there, he just needs to get them on the pitch.
We can round things off from Tynecastle in terms of that game, the 1-1 draw between Hearts and Rangers, with Stephen Gerrard's quotes. Spoke to BT Sports afterwards. He said, "I don't think we were good today, in all honesty. I thought we reacted well from going a goal down. Really disappointed and frustrated with how we started. I said before the game, when you come to a place like Tynecastle, you have to earn the right to compete. We didn't do that. We got a warning when they hit the crossbar. They scored against us soon after, so we could have been a couple down from conceding. I thought the reaction was good and we did well to get back in it. Over the course of game, we haven't done enough to win the points. I certainly see there's 2 points dropped. Craig will be proud with his team, and they certainly deserve to take something. We're really frustrated." He was asked about the Hearts goal. He said it was an individual error, but that's come from how we started the game collectively and as a unit. I was really disappointed in the first 10 minutes. We have got into positions down the left and the right, but our crossing wasn't good enough. There was a lack of quality in the final thirds. We have absolutely no complaints on the outcome of this game. If you compete in the opening 20 minutes and you show you want to fight and earn the rights, we win this game 1-0 and maybe get away with a lucky one. I've got to say that seems to me, Dodsey, to be a very fair assessment of the game, and actually he's repeated a lot of what you boys were saying.
Yeah, there's not much we never covered, and he's been fair and honest. Sometimes managers can get blinkered, but yes, Stephen Gerrard certainly hasn't been there. Listen, we got the warning. He said it. He said it before the game. On top of that, we also said that Hearts, even though the form should suggest that Rangers could maybe go and win 2-3-0 today, but you just know in these big games, and we've talked about Ikpeazu and people bringing it to the party, Hearts weren't going to roll over today, Rich, and I fancied it to be a tight affair just because of the atmosphere, what it brings. So Rangers knew what they had to. Well, they knew how they had to start, and then they knew what they had to bring to this game today.
What do you say to a team, though? What do you say to your team who's going up against a side who are toiling and are playing at home, and everybody's thinking you're going to give them a doing? You're thinking, don't give them a lift. Yeah. Don't let this crowd get on their side. Don't give them, just steamroll them, get in and batter into them, and that's what Stephen's saying, Dodgy. Like, he's really on
the physical, energetic side of the game right away must be applied, and it wasn't for Rangers.
Correct.
So when that wasn't applied, it was from Hearts. They take the lead, and then Rangers struggle all day. But they did show that resilience to at least to come back, didn't look as if they were going to. Then they force a corner, get the goal. I thought Rangers would have taken the momentum into the second half, Rich, but they didn't. That's why Steven Gerrard is so disappointed.
Sportsound. Let's kick off with the unsavoury subject of racism. Hearts are investigating claims that the Rangers striker Alfredo Morelos was racially abused yesterday at Tynecastle. Now, we had a big discussion last week on this, Michael, following England's game in Bulgaria. An FA Cup match was abandoned on Saturday. It's just sickening that we have to discuss this on a fairly regular basis. Will we ever rid ourselves of this problem?
First of all, I think you've got to acknowledge that there's still an element of an issue and a problem, but that there is huge strides that have been made. So could we ever rid ourselves of it? I mean, that's up for debate, but there's definite progress being made. There's no question of that. Not to diminish or to make it sound as if it's insignificant, because it's not. We don't want to see any of that sort of thing happening, but it's definitely improved dramatically in the last 10, 15, 20 years. I've got no doubt about that. And the issue at Tynecastle, it's difficult to talk about it specifically because I've not seen, or I don't really know what has happened. But to answer your initial question, will we ever be able to rid ourselves completely of it? I think that it'll be very difficult. You want to try and minimise it as much as possible, and I think there's been great work that's been done on it in the recent past.
It's not easy for the decent fans in the stand, Stephen, to call it out, to confront the racists. It can be a very, very difficult situation for them.
Yeah, it's if someone has something in their head that is premeditated, Kenny, that they're going to say at a football match, there's nothing that can be done because that person has set in their mind, I'm going to say it. If we get to the stage where it is one or two individuals per game, then we have made huge strides in that respect. And then when you catch the person or persons culpable for it, there has to be zero tolerance. The example has to be set to make sure that, if you're caught, you're going to get punished. You're going to make sure that you're never back in a football ground in Scotland again. So you would have to probably speak to anyone who's been racially abused over the past few years in football, particularly Scottish football. In my time of playing, I don't really remember an awful lot going on, and we had players on our side, and I would have felt as captain, if Eddie came and spoke to me, we could have taken it further and spoke to the manager and spoke to the club. But at no stage in my playing career did I have any player coming or speaking and getting involved with that. So if it's still here in this day and age, some people don't want to be educated. Some people are set in their ways. This is the kind of person I am. But I always wonder, what do you achieve out of it? What do you achieve out of racially abusing someone or, having discrimination against someone? There can't be any self-satisfaction. What are you trying to get out of it? I just think it's moronic, Kenny, completely.
Would you like to see UEFA's three-step rule adopted here? Step 1, the referee stops the match, asks for an announcement demanding the immediate halt of racist behaviour. Step 2, if the racism doesn't cease, the referee suspends the match for a reasonable period and requests the teams go to the dressing room as a further announcement is made over the tannoy system. And step 3, if the racist behaviour continues, the match is abandoned.
Well, Kenny, I think it takes up the point of what Stephen was just saying there, that I think on most occasions racist abuse in Scotland is on small numbers. So it's very difficult for a referee to be aware of that when you're talking about perhaps a handful of people out of a crowd of tens of thousands. But to touch on another point, if that's the guidelines for racist behaviour, then why is it not the same for sectarianism, which is a form of racism? And that's something that happens in its thousands. It's not just a handful of people. That's something that we should be looking to implement when there is sectarian abuse being, screamed and shouted and sung from the stands, because that's something that clearly can be heard en masse, whereas it's very difficult when it's perhaps a handful of people. The only way that would work is if the player themselves has heard it and then reports it and says something to the referee. But if it's good enough for the UEFA guidelines to say such when it's talking about racism, well, the other form of racism that's prevalent here is sectarianism, and why are we not using it then?
Well, keep your thoughts coming to Sports, and what's your experience of racism within Scottish football? Text us 80295 on Twitter at BBC Sportsound. Let's now then we can stay with the game at Tynecastle. An improved performance from Hearts, but still no home win in the league since the end of March. Craig Levein still under pressure alongside the managers of the other two clubs making up the bottom three, Tommy Wright and Paul Heckingbottom. Craig Levein, Michael, has your opinion changed at all? That was a much improved performance from Hearts yesterday against Rangers.
Oh, there's no doubt it was a much improved performance, but the same was perhaps said against Hibs when they managed to get a victory away against Hibs, a penalty shootout win against Aberdeen in the cup. The Rangers game takes care of itself in regards to the way that Rangers are going to look to play. It suits Hearts to play such a style of game where they were right up and at them, because they know that Rangers are going to try and play the ball out from the back. And the energy and the tempo that they played at, though, I think is something that was great to see, but it's a concern as to why has that not been happening against other teams, because if Hearts play with such intensity, in particular at home, against sides that they've, for example, they've been beaten at home against Kilmarnock and Motherwell, they've drawn against Ross County and Hamilton at home. If they were to play in that fashion against those teams, they would be scared to death. They'd be suffocated, and Hearts would be picking up more points than they have. So, as I said, after the cup final, where Hearts put in a really good performance against Celtic, and ultimately came on the wrong side of the result, but it was a good performance. And the same against Hibs, where a lot of plaudits because it was much improved. One swallow does not make a summer. And
is it not down to the players, though? Does that not reflect very badly on the players that the three games you talked about there this season, where they have got a decent result, the players have been up for it? And that's exactly what Craig Levein said a couple of weeks ago. He said, look, he was questioning the attitude, the bottle of his players. You focus an awful lot on the manager.
Yeah, because, Kenny, if you look at the situation at Hearts when Craig Levein's been in charge, it's over 2 years, and there's been an astronomical turnover of players. Now, who's responsible for that? The manager. So if the players are not up to scratch, then the responsibility lies with the person that's bringing them in. If they don't have the bottle, who's the guy that's brought them in? There's got to be an accountability here. The team's been changed dramatically over his time, but the results have been getting worse. So when you say you're focusing on the manager, because the manager's the constant. When you're looking at Heart's situation and things are deteriorating at the same time where his expenditure is going up, there's a direct conflict between the two of them that suggests that the manager's not doing a job well enough. Now, to say that, is it about the players? Of course the players have got to... that's a given.
You've not really criticised the players much, have you?
Well, again, it's the manager's job to get the best out of those players. And ultimately, I think it's quite clear that results would suggest that the manager's not been getting the best out of the players. Great, brilliant 1-1 result against Rangers. But this is the next point. Hearts, the expectation level is so low now that the Livingston away on Saturday, St Johnstone away midweek after that. If Hearts don't pick up a good substantial number of points in those two games, then this point against Rangers at home all of a sudden becomes not immaterial, but it falls into the category of insignificant. But if it's backed up with victories, then you say, right, good point. So time will tell. But up until this point, I think, look, to wrap it up quickly on this one, Craig Levein was doing a Q&A with the Supporters Club recently. He was asked the question, would you have been out of a job if there was another club? And he said, probably. So he even recognises himself that it's not good enough, and if he was in another position at another club, he'd be out the door. He's very fortunate to still be in his position.
Well, you could say that, or you could say that Anne Budge clearly sees something in Craig Levein that tells her he is the right man, he's worth sticking with here.
Well, he's worth sticking with until a point, Kenny. And that point that Michael says, I've looked at their next 4 games. Actually, Craig Levein, Tommy Wright and Paul Heckingbottom are in similar boat. Their next 4 or 5 games are going to determine how long they stay in a job. Because you can only continually go to press conferences. I'm talking to Craig Levein, and his continual line has been, I believe in the players. I believe I can turn this around. I believe we can get results. And Michael is right. They've had results and they haven't backed it up. They've now had a result against Rangers. They have to go and show what they can do. And that I think you said it. Players have to take a huge amount of responsibility. If the manager's brought them in and the manager's putting them on the pitch, they have to go and deliver. There's no reason why they can't reproduce that form of yesterday. And I agree the atmosphere is bigger and player. When you're in poor form and things are going against you, fear creeps in. And the Hearts players, for me, have looked frightened over the past few months. 5 games at home. Michael's right. Motherwell, Ross County, Hamilton. They should be beating those teams. That's the kind of games that traditionally under Craig Levein, Hearts have went and won, or under previous managers have won. And then they've challenged Rangers and Celtic and Aberdeen when they've came along. They haven't managed to deal with those games. And whether that's a fair thing, I don't know. But Anne Budge is going to stick with Craig, but she's going to have to stick with him so long until she says enough's enough.
Do you think rightly so up until this point?
I like her bravery. The fact that she has said, I'm going to give it a go. Because she knows when she changes it, I would think she's going to have to spend even more money again. Because if a new manager comes in, wants his own players and wants his own structure, that may have to change again.
I would disagree with that though, Craigs, because when you look at the squad that Hearts have got on paper, it's massively underachieving. You get any manager who is, a good, competent level, they would be looking at that Hearts job and absolutely desperate to get their hands on that squad.
He's a terrible injury problem.
Oh, like what?
Ikpeazu, Naismith, two of the biggest players.
How many games has Ikpeazu missed?
He's missed a few, hasn't he?
One.
He's missed one game.
Jamie Walker, John Suter are big ones for him as well.
Yeah.
Peter Haring's another big one for him.
There's a squad of over 30.
Well, once they're fit.
But here's the point though, Kenny, right? Because, the manager came out and said, that in the summer there, he only wanted 4 players. He signed 9. The season before, he signed 14 in the summer. So, and the reason was, we had terrible injuries last year. We wanted to build capacity in the squad to be able to handle it. Well, you look at the Hearts squad, you look at the team they're putting out, it's not good enough. And, we're talking, about Hibs and St Johnstone. Tommy Wright said in his interview there, ultimately, I'm the guy that gave all these guys contracts, so I'm responsible. That's what Tommy Wright said himself. And he is under pressure now. He sounds, what a job he's done at St Johnstone. He's got credit in the bank because of the job he's done at St Johnstone. For me, Craig Levein's credit in the bank has run out.
Yeah, but here's another point. We know you don't like Craig Levein. Christophe Berra, someone I think, are reasonably friendly with. You never criticise him. He's a captain. He's shown leadership. Is he shown consistency of performance? Is he letting the fans down?
Is Christophe Berra responsible for the whole team's results?
He's surely the one that you feed off in the park. He's your captain. Has he been good?
Christophe Berra, in the time he's been back at Hearts, has been tremendous.
This season?
Kenny, let me finish. This season, there is no question that Christophe has got a big question mark over him, and he has struggled. No doubt about it. But again, ultimately, are you going to isolate the captain and say that it's all his fault, or are you going to, who's the person that's actually leading? Now, we can, skirt around the issues as much as we want, but the fact is, there was fans in their thousands, or not thousands, in their hundreds, at the front door wanting change. 2 weeks later, they were beaten at home against Kilmarnock. And what happened? Apathy. That's what's sitting at Hearts. And the legacy that Anne Budge is threatening is with, Craigs is saying he admires her, I can't remember the exact word, their bravery. I think there comes a stage where, if this was any other business that Anne Budge was in control of, and a head of a department has had more money to spend, 1 year, the results get worse. The response will spend more money and the results get worse. There's a stage where there would be external advice being sought. They wouldn't stick with that head of the department blindly right to the end. There's a stage where you say, bravery, well done, great and brilliant. Then it becomes naive, and they've crossed that.
We'll move on to Sunday's game at Tynecastle, where Hearts can have the point against Rangers. Hearts are back, and also Hearts are back.
Exactly.
In both senses, Hearts are both back.
Hearts still haven't won at home for a long time.
It's a long time.
But being top of the league didn't last long. Eh?
No. They are still technically top of the league, joint top of the league, Craig.
Oh, really?
But there is a 2 next to the name, and if it stays the way it is now, they're second. So
joint top of the league. I believe the line that everyone is hitting is that they're joint top. First of all, Hearts, they looked, certainly the first 20 minutes, at the very least, significantly more interesting than any other 20 minutes in Hearts season so far. Chasing things down, actually looking like a Hearts team should do at Tynecastle. I actually had in my hotties to begin with Tynecastle, because Tynecastle was, again, very briefly back at the start of the game. But Hearts looked like Uche was having one of his days.
Yeah. It looked like I had the feel, the atmosphere and the feel of one of the games where Hearts have turned up at Tynecastle and scudded one of the Old Firm, put 4 goals past them or something like that. It very much had the makings of one of those performances early on, but I mean, alas, they couldn't sustain it. But even when Rangers did turn the screw and did start becoming the better team, I thought Michael Smith was. I know Uche got man of the match on. No, it was BT, but I thought Michael Smith was outstanding during the game, and he's. I mean, and I was already going to say this before you said it in the hotties and naughties that you could put him in any position.
Yeah.
He's Hearts' best player. He has. I was going to say that he has been our best centre back this season. Forget Suter and forget Halka. He's been our best centre back this season. It's not even a joke. And he's previously played in centre midfield and done really well as well. So I thought he was outstanding.
It's quite telling as well that throughout the game, like with how attacking Rangers have been this season, they only managed 1 shot on target.
Yeah, that's it.
Albeit that was the goal, unfortunately. But like Hearts managed to kind of stave that off a little bit, you know, especially with when Rangers went above Celtic in the last round of games. You kind of thought, I kind of thought that this would be it. They'd be spurred on, they're above Celtic, and they'll just continue going. Yeah. And then with the Hearts fixture coming up, you thought, this isn't going to be a great day for Hearts, is it? They'll probably, like, I thought maybe 4 or 5 now, but then, just didn't happen.
Because since they lost to Celtic, they've just gone on this rampage and just like been putting goals past teams for fun and barely conceding. But yeah, but too many players had an off day for Rangers. I think Tavernier was poor. Arfield continued his poor start to the season. Hearts managed to stop Davies from getting on the ball and dictating. I noticed that they kind of managed to stop him and Kamara linking up especially. But obviously, Rangers still had their spell in the game and still came into it and were well worthy of their goal. And Morelos' celebration was fantastic. I was very surprised that he didn't get booked, but I was delighted that he didn't get booked, because there's no need to really. I mean, I think strictly he should have been booked. The referee should have booked him there, but I'm glad that he kind of turned a blind eye to it.
No, because again,
he was going in the family section. So
if you're going to go the section, go the family section. Get it.
You're not going to cause a riot.
Get it right up them.
Except for the woman who was filming it for some reason.
I say family. This is in Gorgie, remember? The fact that the section in Gorgie.
I'd also like to highlight how funny I found Alan McGregor's booking. For getting booked solely just for being raging.
It's been a while since we've had an Alan McGregor meltdown. They're always fun though.
Yeah, just getting booked for just being absolutely raging.
For not understanding what had been given.
Yeah, very, very enjoyable. And secondly as well, the second main funny bit about Rangers for the day was James Tavernier, who had an absolute shite-mare of a day from his failure to, well, again, as you said about Keith Watson, Keith Watson-esque diving header to back towards his own goal where he got next to nothing on it, followed by hitting about 300 awful crosses and dead balls.
Yeah. He's just not been at it the past couple of weeks either, even with Rangers pushing on and scoring quite a few. He's really been a weak link in this team, especially like with Rangers fans, especially Candace, like not being there to help like track back and cover for him, and he scored a hat-trick at the weekend as well, didn't he, Candace? So I'm sure,
I think it was a hat-trick and like 3 assists as well, something ridiculous.
You'd love to see it when it's not at Rangers.
He had a really tough day. On tough days as well for fullbacks, unfortunately Alan Hickey had probably his worst performance in a Hearts shot so far.
Yeah.
Improved as he moved to left back, but he just looked deadbeat.
It was just an experience that came into it where instead of hitting out for a throw in, he's hit out for a corner. He's lost his man, but then he wasn't the only person to lose their man in that corner when the goal came. Even I thought like Glenn Whelan on the line could have made a bit of an better effort. Did it go through his legs? I think to go in. That's a bit gutting as well.
There's a few. I mean, we saw the same in the Motherwell game as well, and it was just before the corner. Hickey tried to sort of turn out from in being the defence and was closed down and just about got away with it. And he hadn't had a great game up to that point. You looked at him, right, okay, maybe that'll see him when he screw the head and he'll be okay. And then he compounded it with a mistake and then a second mistake, which ultimately cost him the goal. And we saw the same with Fir Park on Saturday as well. Barry Maguire had a kind of poor start to the game, dropped in his centre half, got done by Cosgrove, and it took him best part of 40-50 minutes to recover from it. And they're young players, and it's important that they're all good. There's no doubting that they're good, and that's why they're at this level. But now it becomes a test for the players like Hickey since he came into the Hearts team.
He looks like he's got the right mentality.
He does, yeah.
To deal with that kind of thing. He looks like a calm player, and he looks like the kind of guy that will just take poor performance in his stride and know that this kind of thing is going to happen.
These are the first real challenges these players are going up against, and I think it'll be interesting to see how both of them respond. I'd hope both of them respond positively and come back next week and kick somebody out of the stand and score a 40-yard screamer or something along these lines. But I think it'll be very interesting to see how both of them respond with that as well.
Even despite his errors that he did make, he still had his moments in the game where he did still look a bit of a threat and like a good player. So I think it was just an experience in the end of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. All in all, I thought it found really interesting just how little Morelos was in the game, but still managed to score. For big chunks of the game, didn't offer a huge amount.
I wasn't getting much service.
No, and Shea Ojo out on the wing will probably do that for a centre
forward.
forward.
A couple of times he rolled defenders and it was like tactically fouled and things like that. But yeah, he still got his goal though. He still scored a crucial goal.
It's an important one.